All right, everyone. Yesterday, New York City was hit by an Islamic terrorist attack. I believe the death count stands at 8 currently. And I do not know at this time whether they've confirmed was he a member of ISIS or was he just like an affiliate, like a fan of their sort of terrorist network. But the perp's name was Saifullah Saipov. And what happened is there was a truck attack involving a rented Home Depot truck, actually, followed by, I believe, a brief shootout. It's unfortunate because what's probably going to happen now, the immediate response is dumb mostly. The immediate response by the left is, oh, thank goodness he couldn't obtain an assault rifle, which, by the way, is totally untrue. It's called, you get it in another state, and then you bring it into a state. Hey, you're golden. Like, if someone's so suicidal they're going to do something like this, they probably don't care whether they get caught. They'll just have a border shootout or something instead, and they'll switch tactics. You know, don't think that they can make it a contingency plan. And another thing that I've seen, and this blew my mind when I saw it, some people on the left are saying, oh, this is a Putin-linked attack to take heat off of the Manafort stuff so that Trump can focus back on immigration. You must be nuts. You are definitively wrong. However, in a way, I actually like that you're making this crazy-ass argument because it sounds more like the nuttiness of the left in the Zeitgeist days when it was anti-government. So maybe you'll grow a pair, you'll grow a spine, you'll be like anti-censorship, anti-war, and go back to not trusting government to provide everything for you. Because quite clearly, they can't stop terrorist attacks. They can't stop poverty. They can't stop illiteracy. They certainly, sure as hell, can't stop problems elsewhere in the world. There's really no reason to have a strong central government. I think we need to get over the antiquated idea that centrality and organization are innate goods and that they're not something instead that should be simply heavily constrained to a very, very small role. But the NSA once again fails to stop, despite all of its surveillance, a terrorist attack. I'd like to point that out. That's of import. Number two, can I be honest here for a second? Chuck Schumer, it is true, was responsible mainly for the 2010 visa lottery that this individual entered the country on. It's called a diversity visa program, believe it or not. Now, diversity obviously has problems, especially in the visa sense. And Trump very rightfully is coming out and saying, well, Schumer is basically should be the one apologizing for this. Is a dumb program. We need to end it. We need immigration reform. Yeah, that's true. That probably could have stopped this attack. However, I would point out that the immigration reform Trump has already implemented, which is like his travel ban and stuff, would not have stopped it because it doesn't involve the country of origin. Specifically, I believe Uzbekistan is the country that the attacker was from. Although it may have been Kyrgyzstan. Now, these sort of five post-Soviet Central Asian countries is Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan. This is Central Asia. This is not the Middle East. So people need to understand that. Number two, the variant of Islam practiced in some of these countries is not quite the same as the kind you get in like Arabia or North Africa. There are regional variants of Islamic practice. In Central Asia, it tends to overlap a lot with the cultural, sort of the steppe tribal religions more than it would in Arabia, certainly Saudi Arabia, or Qatar, or certainly the Shiite nations, like a pan-Persian sort of feel. There's a different variance within it. But that doesn't mean that they can't support an imperialistic movement like a pan-Islamic movement like ISIS. See, there's the difference. The FSA and some of these other Islamo-fascist militant movements are fundamentally nationalistic. ISIS is imperialistic. It wants a caliphate that involves the entire Islamic world as they envision it being. You remember that one map that they showed that time? Which was like, it was almost humorous because it's obviously not going to happen. They're like, this is what we intend to take over. Did you know that that's the blank map from Victoria 2 that had just been recolored? Did you know that? No, it actually is. It's got the Victoria 2 provinces and stuff on it. Just take another look at it and compare. It's actually true. Somebody sat there for a couple hours meticulously coloring in what provinces they wanted to take over, zoomed out and screen capped it, basically. That's what happened. But, it's too bad that this happened in New York City, but one thing that I would seek to avoid, we need to avoid this. let's not feel so afraid that we endorse more government or more like police state surveillance bullshit. Like in France, where they build barriers alongside the road because people keep running trucks into crowds and stuff. That's just a dumb idea. You know, you wouldn't have this problem if it weren't for your migrant crisis, by which most of these people are either coming in or being radicalized through foreign networks that have infiltrated. There's your problem. As for like, it's like Theresa May when she comes out and says, well, we need more like censorship and policing online to keep people from interacting with like extremist content. It's not going to work. They'll build other websites that are too new for you to effectively police. It'll happen over and over. They'll develop language creoles to get around your policing. It's not going to work. Your dystopian Brazil / 1984 / Animal Farm / Brave New World bullshit has never worked in the past. We've been trying it for half a century. It's never going to work in the future, Theresa May. Your online policing will do nothing. It'll do the opposite. It'll make people think, wow, this is something taboo and suppressed. It must be something exciting and cool. And so pretty soon little Jimmy will be saying, well, maybe Osama wasn't so wrong after all. That's what'll happen. You're going to have a much bigger problem. Let's do the opposite of what Western Europe is doing. What's Western Europe doing? And they get attacked over and over because of it. They make excuses for zealots. Okay, well then let's do the opposite. Let's call them what they are and ridicule them for being zealots. I would never say, by the way, some people on the right, they're like, oh, we'll just ban Islam for the country. We can't do that constitutionally. Number one. Number two, you'd start a civil war by trying. No, but you can ridicule people for being zealots. We do this to the Westboro Baptists. We do this to people that handle snakes. We do this to people that are zealots for any other religious path. Some Mormon person, they're total survivalist. And they're like, oh, Joseph Smith was the Messiah and stuff. And they're really, really, really out there about it. Like in the Nanu Club, we ridicule them. We don't take it seriously. We say, oh, okay, all right. Why don't we start doing that to Islamic zealots? It's not bigoted to do that. This dude is from Central Asia. He's not an Arab. He's not an African. Get over the concept that Islam has anything to do with race. The biggest Islamic population in the world is in Indonesia. Way, way far away from the Middle East. Has nothing whatsoever in common with anywhere in Arabia. Absolutely nothing in common with somebody living in Iraq. Trust me, Indonesia, totally different place. There are, what was it? I think 80 million or 100 million Muslims in India. India, South Asia, has nothing to do with the Middle East. Most people don't know this. They think of Islam, what do they think of? They think of like, they either think of Mecca and like the Arabian Peninsula, or they think of pyramids. That's what they think of. Their ignorance will be their downfall. Why don't you familiarize yourselves with some geography? With the demographics of the world. Grow a pair, in between your eyes preferably. A pair of cortex components that allow you to think. That's all you have to do. A lot of people, unfortunately, left, right, and center, don't actually do this. What else does Western Europe do? Western Europe says, oh, well, we'll just have like more police, more heavily armed police. We'll have more surveillance and police state stuff. Okay, let's do the opposite. Let's be more free. Let's dismantle the police state. Let's dismantle the surveillance apparatus. It's obviously not helping them. It's not helping us. It's just data sharing of private citizens' information between governments, which itself, under our Constitution, is blatantly illegal for them to be doing. They're allowing foreign networks to gather intel on U.S. citizens, then buying it back up while they do the same thing to foreign citizens to get around their laws. It's a little tit for tat. The two countries just agree, hey, well, we can't spy on our own citizens, so we'll spy on one another's, and then we'll data share through a separate program. Wow, you just got around your own legalism, didn't you? How wonderful. Just another denigration of the Fourth Amendment. What else did Western Europe do? Oh, they disarmed everyone. You can't even have like a knife. You have to have a license to buy a fucking butter knife in the UK. Okay, let's do the opposite. Let's tear apart existing gun and weapon control. Let's do what Texas did. We should allow people to carry around swords and machetes and stuff. Bowie knives. That's a good idea. Rip apart any bans on, any, oh, you can't have an expanded magazine, you can't have a scope, you can't have a silencer. Okay, we need to get rid of all that, the peripheral laws. We need nationwide stand your ground castle doctrine and stuff. We need to encourage people to defend themselves. And we need to not have militarized police. No, the police should look like a respectable small town force commensurate with respect for the population. And the population, likewise, should help defend things. It should defend itself. You should know, at least know that you know your next door neighbors. Be prepared to step in to help. Like you would do that for medical things, like, you know, little old lady in the next house over. Help, I've fallen and I can't get up. Well, you're like, oh shit, Mrs. Smith, and you call the fucking doctor for them. You don't just stand there looking out your window waiting for some government agency to show up and notice that Mrs. Smith fell down, broke her hip, and can't reach her cell phone because her cat took it and buried it in the litter box. That's not what happens. It's not a polite society. It's not a functional, efficient society. Let's get back to actually giving a damn about one another. Maybe that would help, because apparently in Western Europe, certainly nobody appears to give a damn. The government doesn't give a damn about anyone. What else have they done? Let's build barriers along the side of the road. Stop truck attacks and stuff. Why don't we take up a different tack and just have border control? Why don't we actually know who's in the country? Now, a lot of people say, well, you're a racist because you're critical of you know, you're saying basically the attacker was Islamic, so you're calling it terrorism, and that's bigotry for some odd reason, which it's not, but, you know, basically that's the claim they make. Islam's not a race. This has to do with legal versus illegal immigration. I don't want somebody from the UK, born and raised. They're totally white, family's been there for 10 billion years or whatever. I don't want them illegally immigrating either. No, I really don't care. The fact that they speak fluent English and happen to come from Europe and they're white doesn't change my opinion. I don't want them illegally here. No, I want them to go through some process to be here. Go ahead and streamline legal immigration if you so desire. But we got to take care of the bigger problem, which is that there are millions of people here who aren't documented. They call them, oh, they're not illegal, they're undocumented. Okay, we don't have any documentation that they're even here. Isn't that a problem? Don't you see that as a fucking problem? I do. By the way, some 500,000 or so of those illegal immigrants are Eastern Europeans. They're white. They're from Europe. Believe it or not. Yeah, a lot of people came here illegally to escape the Soviet Union. Yeah, a lot of people from behind the Iron Curtain. Or in the post-Soviet days to escape poverty. They came here illegally. Oh, I'm coming as a tourist from Krakow. Guess what? I'm not leaving. I'm going to settle here in the Polish district in New York City. Now, that's fine. Okay, you're being lawful, trying to get ahead of it, but you're not documented. It's a problem. We got to do something about it. It's not bigoted to suggest that nations should take care of themselves and look predominantly, first and foremost, after their own population. It's like with giving foreign aid. We don't even have the money within this country to pay for our homeless veterans, the mentally ill, people who have we're talking about giving everyone single payer. We can't even pay for the healthcare subsidies we do currently give people. We can't pay for any of this, but we can give billions of dollars a year to other countries. Why? Our government's responsibility is not to the people of Egypt or Pakistan or Israel or any Turkmenistan or anywhere else in the world. They don't have a responsibility to them. You represent us, the population here. I would think that's self-explanatory. It's like when people say, well, MAGA's racist, populism's racist. No, you're talking about black citizens, Latino citizens, Asian citizens, Native American citizens, everything under the sun. It doesn't just mean white America. People think it has something to do with fucking race. That doesn't. At the same time, you're rambling about the fact that, oh, white America is going to become a minority in the United States. And okay, well, then you can stop blaming them for every problem and saying that it's racist to say America first, right? Because America first will no longer mean hegemonically white, I guess. You'll never take up that line, but, you know, that would be the reasonable thing to do. What else does Western Europe do? It's run by expansive government, extremely expensive bureaucracy based on high tax, low growth models. So that people can't get ahead, they feel disenfranchised. Yeah, the fact that they rely on socialism for everything, can't really get ahead in a capitalistic manner, can't be individuals, yet naturally that's going to lead to some depression. It's going to lead to disenfranchisement. It leads to social alienation. People want to be able to do things themselves once in a while. Why don't we do the opposite? Why don't we rip apart our bureaucracy, slash taxes, slash spending, return to deregulate things, let people do what they want to do on their own fucking property. Get rid of the idea of the property tax. People can actually own something. They can get ahead. They can have their own land that they can do with as they please. They don't have to pay rent to the government in order to own it. Wouldn't that be a wonderful country to live in? It sounds like if we only did the exact opposite of what Western Europe is doing, people would probably be less given over to extremism. Things would certainly be cheaper. We could defend ourselves effectively. All the crap that doesn't work, we could just toss by the wayside. and things would be wealthier and healthier and more fun here now, wouldn't they? Yeah, it sounds like that's a great idea. Why don't we try it? Well, obviously, there are plenty of countries in the world that are trying more centrality, higher taxes, more government control. We need to strangulate things. Police state, police state, police state. Surveillance here and there. Censorship. Everyone else is trying that, and it's not working. There's hardly a place in this world that's getting better right now. Most of it is in steady decline. Why don't we try something different for a change, instead of doing what we've been doing since the 1990s? Now, I think it'd be a good idea. It starts then, of course, it progresses. Post 9/11, it gets way, way worse. Since then, we've been marching steadily off a cliff. Well, it's time to reverse course before we go tumbling, I think. That's about all. Peace out.